Hi guys, I'm back with, as promised, with my first video since the introduction about how one attempts essay questions. And today I start off with Tempest, the essay questions from the Tempest. And please do remember that from this year, your questions are worth 15 marks, unlike till last year where it was for 20 marks. Of course, the reference to the context do remain the same, 10 marks each, right? So what I have done is I'm giving you the sample questions that the board puts in, what they would want for essay answers to be written, and then I'm going to discuss one question with you today, then one or two questions in the future, right? Okay, now this was a 2020 question that came about, broken into three parts: 866, Act 4, Scene 1, that is, the mask. So describe the blessings that were showered by Ceres and Iris on Miranda and Ferdinand, and what is the significance of these blessings. Now you see that describe the blessings and significance. So you know when the 8 marks are there, it's divided into 4 for describe and 4 for the significance, right? That's how you should do it. So let's see what they're looking for in this answer. If you see the first part, after completely convinced of the sincerity, he organizes a mask. So immediately you've immediately made it clear that this is the mask scene, right? So organizes a mask. So that is, you have to put first, and another reason, of course, is his demonstration of his prowess as a magician. So that is another reason why the mask is there. And then because it is a mask, you need to tell what a mask is all about. And you know that there were certain details about the Tempest and the mask. Now, just to remind you, we are writing this extra information. The board wants this because it is to do with the mask and there is extra information available. And the school and your teachers would have done it in context. So here they provide an allegorical setting to celebrate betrothals or marriages, and the mask in the Tempest was written especially for a performance to celebrate the betrothal of King James's daughter. And the characters represented were a mixture of grotesque, allegorical, classical derived gods, goddesses, personified virtues, etc. So, a general introduction on the mask. But remember, the first is this is a mask organized by Prospero to bless and display. Then, what is a mask? And then we move straight on to the blessings and the significance. So, Iris, goddess of rainbow, summons Ceres, the goddess of earth, to bestow her blessings on the young couple Ceres, young couple Ferdinand and Miranda. Then you have Ceres and goddess Juno, they give their blessings. Ceres blesses the young couple, enjoy earth's increase and poison plenty. Their barns and granaries could never be empty. So all blessings, vines would be loaded. Spring would come at the end of every harvest. There would not be the bleakness of winter in their lives. There won't be scarcity. So there are only blessings showered on them. What does Iris's blessings are more implicit? Iris is a rainbow which unites earth. So she freely blesses their wedded life. She summons the nymphs of the stream, the reapers to the dance on the green, and the presence of calmness and vitality. Yes. Now, the blessings of the goddesses require special relevance. Now, remember the question significance of the blessing, the special relevance in the context of Ferdinand, because they are going to be the future king and queen of Naples. So, there's a special significance. And the society is predominantly agrarian. So these blessings emphasize fertility. Now, fertility not just for the agricultural point of view, but fertility when it comes to man and woman, right? So the desired quality of marriage. So that is the significance that is being projected. But we don't stop there. We suddenly say, however, the mask is disrupted. Prospero speaks because he's reminded of the conspiracy. So the mask comes to an end. Now, why is this written? Just for a natural conclusion. You want to end it in any other way, you're most welcome to, because remember there's no special marks allotted to it. Probably just to significance of the scene, it ends very abruptly because Prospero is distracted. he is reminded of Caliban and the conspiracy that is still to be met. Or you can say that Prospero suddenly ends the mask because he feels that the goddesses and the spirits, which are the servants Ariel has also helped in creating, have done their duty, and so the mask is complete. You can finish it, right? So that's part A. Now, if you look at part B, what did Prospero tell Ferdinand just before the mask? Just before. And what did he emphasize and how did Ferdinand answer? So, what did he say? What did he emphasize? You break the 6 into 3, 3, and how did Ferdinand answer will be the second 3. So, what did Prospero tell and what did he emphasize would be a 3, and how did Ferdinand answer would be a 3. Why have I shown these distinctions? Because that is how you need to answer the question. You should not forget that how did Ferdinand answer is important. That is also is a part of the 6 marks, and many a times we forget about it. So you see, at the beginning of Act 4 is evident that Prospero is convinced of the sincerity of Ferdinand's love. And he tells Ferdinand that you're getting third of mine own life, right? And Prospero's concern for his daughter is evident as he repeatedly reminds Ferdinand to ensure that Miranda's chastity and purity is not violated. Yes? And then the quote, the heavens will not rain down any blessings if he does not honor Miranda. Instead, barren hate, sorrow, disdain, and discord shall cover their marriage bed with weeds, so that hatred instead of love will grow in the marriage. Right. So this is what he speaks to Ferdinand just before. And what does Ferdinand reply? Tries his best to assure Prospero that he will not give in to any temptation, regardless of the opportunity and place. Now, my suggestion to you would be, if you've got the exact 2 parts of the question, you can have a next paragraph from here, from Ferdinand, just to make it clear that you've answered the other section. If the time to his marriage seems too long, he'll console himself that Phoebe's steeds had foundered or night had been kept chained below. So they're very tiny little quotes, but the quotes are there. Don't forget that. That's important. You're most welcome to write single line quotes. That will be very acceptable, right? The final 6 marks is what do you conclude about Prospero from the events that occur in the act. Prospero in the act, 6 marks. In this act, Prospero is a much mellow mood. So he's actually both a father and a magician in this. He's wanting for the first time for the children to be proud of the fact that he is a brilliant magician. So his concern for his daughter is evident from the fact that he takes pains to test Ferdinand's sincerity. And once he's sure he has a grace to explain his actions. He even admits that Ferdinand has strangely stood the test. That's also a quote. His pride in his daughter can be seen that he calls her a rich gift that he's giving Ferdinand. At the same time, he wants to ensure that the union is marked by correctness, so no violation of chastity. He's proud of his skills as a magician and therefore holds the mask as a reward for the young couple and also to display his art. Twinfold intention of the mask. When Ferdinand is amazed by the actors, Prospero declares that they were his spirits whom he had called from the confines to enact his fancies. However, when the mask is disrupted, Prospero talks about the ephemeral nature of illusions. Prospero, having achieved his aims, becomes philosophical as he comments that, like illusions presented, we are such stuffs as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. So you could end with the philosophical Prospero also being a part of your explanation of his character. 6 marks for it. Got it? Right. Now, the next question in 2020 was the character of Caliban. Now, you see, many a times when you're writing character sketches, you start looking at one aspect of the character. I know Caliban is evil, but there could be moments where he has shown some tendencies of being good or some hope somewhere. We cannot paint a character only in one color. They are different shades. Yes? So, whenever you're analyzing a character, please do give different aspects of it. I know I'm not asking you to give if you ask me straight, I'm not going into the answer. If I wanted to show something of the softness of Caliban, I would straight go to Act 3, Scene 3, remember, when he's with Stefano and Trinculo and he's surprised that they're frightened of the sounds of the island, because he says, the island has a softness in it. It puts me to the music that puts me to sleep. And when I wake up with the sound of the music, the air is so beautiful that I want to dream on and I want to go back to sleep and continue with the dream of the island. So you see, there is perhaps something good about him which I will also include. I mean, I'm not condoning his actions, but we should see varying aspects of a character when we are analyzing it, right? So when you're looking at Caliban, here of course the past is given. So he's a misshapen son of witch Sycorax. Definitely you have to begin that way. As Prospero as a hag born, not honored with human shape. That's how Prospero described. You could also begin with a quote describing Caliban. Acceptable. He's the only inhabitor of the island when Prospero arrived, and Prospero usurped the island from him, and this is the crux of Caliban's resentment. That's a reason why Caliban hates Prospero, because he took the island from me. I showed him all that was good in it, and he enslaved me. Maybe in that context, he's forgotten why he has been enslaved, but nevertheless, he came and he took everything that belonged to me. That is his angst. That is his complaint, right? So, first part, that's the introduction. Then you come to Caliban represents the black magic of his mother and appears bad when judged by our standards. Our sympathy for him is aroused when Caliban movingly tells us of the torment that he suffers at the hands of Prospero. I have brought in sympathy. You feel bad, God, but they will not pinch, fright me with the urchin shows his me into madness. Like you quote from that entire section lines that show how he's being tormented by Prospero. Prospero, of course, has his reasons because Caliban tried to violate the honor of his daughter. He had therefore been confined into this rock and forced to perform all the low and menial tasks. Even the gentle and kind Miranda does not have a good word for him. When he reminds him of the pains she had taken over him, he does not appreciate it. You taught me language, and that has taught me how to curse. Remember? Modern day analysts interpret the relationship between Prospero and Caliban as that of the colonist and the person colonized. So this slavery continues, right? Now, that's the end of a paragraph. Now, Caliban's resentment is intense. So you see short sentences that make wonderful transition between this paragraph to this. It is clear that he hates Prospero. So when he meets Stefano and Trinculo, he seizes the opportunity to hatch a conspiracy against him. In many ways, Caliban is an innocent, reacting to emotional and physical needs without the ability to think through and fully understand the events and people who surround him. Now here, of course, this, like I told you, this is the sample answer given by the board, and they go on to call Caliban as innocent. Though somebody who has tried to violate the honor of a girl cannot be called innocent. Probably he was innocent when Prospero and Miranda came onto the island because he was still a child. Then he was innocent. Yes, he needed the physical need, and Prospero looked after him, taught him the language. But now when he's grown up, he no longer retains the innocent. Yes, he's truly a child of nature, definitely uneducated, reacting to surroundings in much the same way as animal does. So surviving, so reacting to the way animal does. However, at the same time, he turns out to be more focused and sensible than Stefano. See, they are easily diverted by glittering garments, Prospero places. But Caliban, on the other hand, recognizes the garments and trash and said, why are you paying heed to it? Don't be distracted from what your work is. And the only work now is to kill Prospero. So again, you're showing, in comparison to Stefano and Trinculo, he's brought out in good light. Now, next paragraph, despite his savage demeanor and grotesque appearance, here you can quote some lines from Act 2 when Stefano and Trinculo first come upon Caliban. Like, it's a fish, it's smelly, and he could make good money if he took him back, the kind of creature that he is. Yes, Caliban has a more sensitive side that the audience only able to glimpse briefly. His beautiful speeches about his island home and its magical beauty. That is what I was referring to. You know, that beautiful imagery about the island is presented by Caliban. So you can quote from this section, Act 3. Prospero, of course, does not see any redeeming feature in him and terms him a born devil on whose nature nurture does not stick. He is born evil. So even if we try to bring some goodness, it will not work. Yes? Does not stick. That's important. Prospero feels that he grows more repulsive. His forced servitude, his oppression have led many readers to interpret it as a symbol of native cultures occupied and suppressed by European colonial scouts. It is probably also a response to Montaigne's idea of the noble savage. So here is a critical thought, nobles. So the board wants you to look at something beyond the textbook. Read some critical writers of Tempest. I will put a whole list of all that at the last lesson of mine, so where you can use it for your quotes. Uh, Prospero's words, being a devil, represent the impatience of a master mentor who has not been successful, and one, therefore, who concludes that it's no redeeming feature. He tried to, but he could not redeem Caliban. He could not make Caliban be a person of some worth. He remains a savage. And that's exactly what you see. Caliban does not ask for freedom. Maybe that's another point which I could have written. When he meets Stefano and Trinculo, he's not talking of getting his freedom from Prospero. He's talking of getting rid of Prospero so that he becomes a slave to a new master. And he says, I will lick your boots. Remember, he tells Stefano, not Trinculo's, not his, but yours. So he will always remain a slave because his nature is slavish. So for him, freedom, unlike Ariel, is not to be the master of oneself. For him, freedom means freedom from Prospero to be a slave to another master. So that way he'll never be free. Yes, perhaps Prospero's words reflect the European attitude to the natives of the regions. So he ended that way. And I probably would end it saying about not having freedom. Now, you see, many a times I am asked, how long should an answer be? See, we don't go by lengths. You go by different aspects of a character or different aspects of a scene which you cannot leave to analyze. You have to include. But if you really tell me about words, I would definitely say 800 to 1,000. If we are going by words, 800 to 1,000. It's double your essay length for each answer. Okay. All right. Now, the question that I've analyzed is, though mischievous and playful, Ariel is most sincere in his devotion towards his master Prospero. Discuss. He is most sincere to devotion. So if you see the key words, I needed the sip. The key words are mischievous, playful, most sincere, and devotion to his master. Discuss. 15 marks. Now, character. Now, how have I done it? I've not written a full answer. I shouldn't. You know what happens if I write a full answer? So many of you are just going to take that, learn it, and present it. I don't want that. It's not yours. Then it doesn't become your answer. So I've given you points for you to develop and you can have your own answer. But these are elaborate points, so you can make your own. For the introduction, I've given you 3 options to choose. You could either begin with a quote, you can take a suitable one from the text, either conveying that he's a tool in the hand of Prospero or a magic wand that Prospero wields to accomplish his desires. Yes, though Prospero is the protagonist, there is no harm in calling Ariel the protagonist because Ariel is the one who is actually doing the actions. He's the one acting, right? So perhaps to call him a protagonist would not be wrong. And here, look into 1 or 2 reference textbook and take a quote written by some critic on Ariel. Go and find that out. Yes, that would be a very good way to quote. And remember, from the very first scene, we know about the presence of Ariel. From the very first scene, right? So he is there from the first to the last, because though Prospero is the protagonist, Ariel is the instrument through which all that Prospero wishes to happen happens, right? You could begin that, or you could begin with the theme of illusion. Illusion is a theme which is central in this play, The Rampant, and it is rampant in this play. It is a root of the relationship between Prospero and Ariel. It's a root of the relationship, because all examples of illusion are brought forth in The Tempest by Ariel, right? Okay, and he's the instrument in converting all of Prospero's desires into reality through this illusion. So he is the magic. Prospero is the magician, right? Or you could, sorry, there's a misprint here. This should be W. How he was discovered. You can go back to when Prospero came to the island. Remember in Act 1, Scene 2, Prospero tells Ariel, have you forgotten how came upon you? How he came to the island 12 years ago and heard him whelping inside a cloven pine, which Sycorax had put him in, and Prospero granted him freedom, and ever since Ariel has been indebted to Prospero for his life, right? I was just thinking, you could begin with defining his name, Ariel, name, airy spirit, born of air. Yes, so he's everywhere. Air is everywhere. So Ariel is everywhere. In every important action of the play, the presence of Ariel is supreme, right? So that could be. As I talk to you, I think of another way. Choose any one, please. Don't use all. Choose any one and develop it, right? That is your moral, is your introduction, short, with one quote, definitely. Then you come to the body, the first. He's an airy spirit. Because see, I didn't put it in the introduction. I put it in the body. Any point from here that do not have in the any point from here that you don't have in the introduction, put it in the body. By definition, there is a childlike innocence that surrounds him. Airy spirit. When you talk about some goodness, he's goodness personified. Childlike innocence. He's doing everything like his master bids him to. Yes, an obedient child. While on the ship in Act 1, Scene 1, we see his mischievous self following the commands of Prospero. Air and fire combined, splitting into half, setting the bow, setting the deck on fire. So he's moving all round, splitting into different, like, there he reminds me more of an elf. The spirit like an elf, causing mischief, being naughty. But that's what his work was, not deliberate. That is what was needed. Yes. And then again, when you move to Act 3, Scene 2, remember the part when Caliban, Stefano are talking, and Trinculo is drunk, and each time when Caliban is saying something to Stefano, Ariel is standing there speaking. Oh no, thou liest. You liest. And Caliban believes it's Trinculo and gets Stefano to hit Trinculo. So he's causing this kind of fun. So these incidents denote his mischievous and playful self. Act 3, Scene 2, even Act 5, Scene 1. Mine would, sir, were I human, when he tells Prospero. Yes, if I were human, I would behave differently. That also shows that part of him, probably. Yes, he understands human nature. So part of it, in a very playful way, he's telling Prospero, be kind like I am. Yes. So always remember, you have a point, you give evidence, and then your justification of your point is made. So unless you write an incident or give evidence, your point is not justified, right? Okay, now second word. Now, he executes Prospero's orders to the last detail. True devotion. Now we are coming to most sincere in his devotion. I've done the first part. Now we are coming to sincerity and devotion to his master. He executes Prospero's orders to the last detail. So you'll give examples of true devotion. First, causing the tempest. Don't write too much on this scene, because you've already addressed it here when you're doing about his mischievous and playful self, in Act 1, Scene 1. You talk about, yes, he did. Then dispersing everyone to the assigned place. He's been told by Prospero to bring Ferdinand into the scene first, as so that he meets Miranda and they fall in love, and that is what Prospero has designed. He does that. Then he brings Stefano and Trinculo together, yes, revealing the cruel Caliban. Then Alonso and his troop are bound together in grief and search. They are looking around. They are in another part of the island. How have they been distributed? Like Prospero has asked Ariel to do. They should not be in close contact. They should not know that there are others who are alive, especially Ferdinand. And Ariel has done exactly that. How else would they be different? Of course, there is one point which I have not written, which you should write, when he mentions to Prospero that the mariners and the boatswain and the captain are safely in their lower berths of the ship, fast asleep. They don't know what is happening, and the ship is lying safely in a closed corner, ready to set sail when need be. Right? Everything is done by Ariel. He does everything, perhaps with a bit of murmur sometimes, but never says no to what Prospero says. That is the devotion, right? He thwarts the conspiracy of Antonio and Sebastian by singing into the ears of Gonzalo. Again, like, what is Prospero's aim? That these three men of sin should understand the sin that they committed 12 years ago, right? He's seeking revenge, Prospero is. So now Ariel realizes that if Antonio and Sebastian kill Alonso and Gonzalo, Prospero's intent will not be realized. Why he has brought them onto the island will not be realized. So before Antonio and Sebastian can do the heinous act of killing them, he wakes Gonzalo up from the sleep that they are in, some magical slumber, remember? And the assassination is thwarted. Of course, we must remember that he is an obedient slave. If we keep the theme of colonialism in mind, remember, the theme of colonialism should be brought in here. If we keep the theme of colonialism in mind, perhaps epitomizing the role of a subservient native is Ariel. That is his role. He's fulfilling the needs of the colonists, Prospero, without much of a murmur. At times he says, "You promised me freedom. Prospero, I will give you. First, a bit of work needs to be done." And immediately Ariel says, "What is my work? Please let me know." So he's ready to finish serving his master till he can get his freedom. So the theme of colonialism is also here in Ariel's role as the subservient native. He was a native of the island, so that's not wrong. And he's subservient. He's doing all the work that has been assigned to him. Yes. So that angle you must also keep in mind. Third body is as the spiritual end. He's a spirit. So in the natural hierarchy that is portrayed, in the spiritual end, he is the harpy. That is a great focus. His role as a harpy, as a mythical creature used in the Renaissance period as an agent of retribution. So Ariel is an agent of retribution, revenge, and then repentance. That is the agent of retribution. The dramatic spectacle of the mask is also performed by Ariel and his Meena ministers. So all the, the dramatic spectacles, the harpy coming in, something from the world of the unknown, yes, of the supernatural. The harpy is Ariel. The mask where you have Iris, Ceres, Juno coming in, that is Ariel and his meaner spirits. Ariel has designed it. Yes. So he is the one who sort of sets the tone of illusion in this play through the introduction of supernatural elements. He himself is a supernatural element, heightens it by becoming harpy or by creating the different goddesses in the mask. He is thus an exemplar of the idyllic world. Iris, Ceres, Juno with their songs and blessings, harmony in his singing when he leads Ferdinand to Miranda, come unto these yellow sands. He is the harmony. He stands for harmony. His songs bring in harmony. Ferdinand is led to Miranda when he hears Come Unto These Yellow Sands sung by Ariel. Ariel hums when he leads Stephanos, Trinculo, Caliban. They follow him and they move towards the stagnant waters, right? Perhaps the air on the island and soft music, which even Caliban so fondly speaks about, is Ariel's creation. How do we know? We can say it because Ariel is everything that is peaceful and mystical and harmonious. He's everything that is subtle and forgiving on this island. Everything. So Ariel epitomizes the beauty of this island. So if I'm looking at the conclusion, the justice that Prospero seeks has been instrumented by Ariel, and forgiveness follows. Ariel's empathy towards the wrongdoers, letting the wind be favorable to allow the ships on their homebound journey. Empathy. Like the magic of Prospero is left behind on the island, Ariel is left behind in this world of magic possibilities. He is magic himself. He cannot move into the world of men, so he remains on the island of illusion. And as Prospero says, then to the elements be free and fare thou well. That is what happens to Ariel. He goes back to the elements. He has come from the elements. Remember when in the harpy scene he said, don't raise your swords, it's made of the same element as we are. So he moves to the element, air, water, fire. Yes. So Ariel with his long yearn for freedom will definitely fare well, for he epitomizes the goodness that Shakespeare seeks in his drama. He's yearning for freedom, and that is definitely what that sense is what Shakespeare will find in his drama, that goodness through Ariel. And then I've given you a quote as Stephen Siddall writes, Prospero is the artist, Ariel is the art. And art lives on in its perfection and beauty. I have given you different objectives of how you could, points that you could do in your conclusion. So I'm sure you've got a fair idea. Remember, 15 marks. These points are all there in front of you. Design your answer. You're most welcome to write an answer, share it with me. And this is your first revision of essay question done, completed. So till I move to the next one, start working on this answer and stay safe. Bye.